No, I agree with that. By the way, I'm sensing we're running. I didn't get a chance to push you on. We'll do it next time.
No, we can do it now, and it can bleed into the Substack questions.
Okay,
Yeah.
so diversity.
Yeah, what about it?
Well,
it's our greatest strength, I keep hearing.
Right, I think it is a strength. You don't think it's a strength? Actually, no. You're going to say too much cultural diversity. People with different.
No, that's not what I'm going to say. What I'm going to say is, what do you mean by diversity?
Well, I think that's worth defining. I think that diversity is a tremendous strength within certain parameters.
What do you mean by diversity?
I mean cognitive diversity. In other words...
Oh, right. So not what the rest of society means by diversity.
Yeah, so I think if society means...
if what you mean by diversity is not what we keep being told about, then I agree with you.
Let me see what you think. So let's say the society thinks of diversity as in demographic terms. Race, gender, social...
The society thinks there's not enough black people on TV. Let's shove some black people in there. That's diversity.
Right, okay.
Is that our greatest strength?
Well, I think it can have some very positive implications. So cognitive diversity, what I mean by that is different insights, perspectives, information that can be brought to bear on solving problems that no one perspective has a monopoly of good ideas on. Yeah. Okay. But demographic differences do provide that kind of diversity.
Depends how they're managed and how they're created. If you just randomly start picking people because on their skin color basis, no, it doesn't.
Okay, let me
and
see.
There's also another facet of it, which is you get somebody, they go, look at this person who's diverse we brought through at the BBC. You went, yeah, but they're privately educated. They went to Oxford. They have exactly the same opinions on you on everything, from economics to Brexit to whatever to populism.
Yeah, that's right.
That's not diversity. That's just you with just a little bit more melanin.
All I would say is that colour still now won't always be this way. It's still a proxy
for culture,
for tacit knowledge.
Yeah, sure.
Of a very significant kind in almost all of the problems we face. I remember, I'm going to simplify a bit, but Blair gave a speech on how to crack down on antisocial behaviour. And he said, what we need to do is empower the police to see someone engage in antisocial behaviour, march them to a cash point, get them to withdraw £100 and issue an on-the-spot £100 fine. And all the upper middle class journalists thought it was a brilliant policy. But it took someone from a different social class to see the problem, which is that a lot of these people didn't have bank accounts and almost none had a £100 bank balance. In other words, if you think of intelligence as sort of conceptual flair, you detach it from granular cultural understanding and it takes you in the wrong direction. Our politicians have come from too narrow a social class, for example. And I think that, if you've got a group of people, white male, Oxbridge graduates, running a company which is trying to appeal to a broad demographic, you could have a massive problem. And bringing in people from different backgrounds, because what you want is meritocracy. All the big decisions, high value in the world, are taken by teams, right? Because the world's too complex for one person to have all of the information. You have a group of people in a team who come from a very similar background. They're adding nothing to each other. What you want is meritocracy at the level of the team. And then you bring people with different perspectives and different cultural backgrounds where relevant to the problems we're trying to solve. The CIA in the post-war period, 95% of its analysts were white, male, middle class, privately educated, liberal arts graduates. Protestant, did I mention that? It was a very narrow group of people, all of whom passed a test, better than anyone else. Reasoning, they were a disaster in anticipating threats because they couldn't see emerging tribal problem. You need people with perspectives that are relevant, and that is often colour, gender is bringing a whole load of tacit collateral to these. This is why Amazon, Microsoft, MI6, CIA today, they might not say it in the Trump era, but they are focused fundamentally on bringing diverse perspectives to solve complex interconnected problems.
That's fine. But that's not what most people understand by understand by diversity. You are here talking to us because we love your column and also because there have been a number of issues that have been raised recently on which we feel, based on your column, but also on your background, your family background, you would have a unique perspective.
And you make us look less racist.
Exactly.
And better looking.
I wouldn't go that far, mate. That's why you're here. You're not here because you're a brown guy. That's the difference. That's the difference between what you're talking about, which is someone having a unique perspective that's valuable, and what I'm talking about, which is box ticking. And we've had way too much box ticking.
No, that's right. I agree with that. It went too far.
Way too much box ticking.
Do you agree that meritocracy at the level of an individual, say you had a test that could hire for the best graduate to go into the analytical function of the CIA.
Yeah.
Would you agree with me that applying that test to recruit the 100 people you need will definitely lead to disaster?
Not necessarily. What I would say is if those people are smart enough to go, we're about to overthrow a government in Latin America, maybe we should chat to somebody who's been to South America. Do you see what I'm saying?
Well, in other words, but there's a problem. No, that doesn't work. That doesn't work. That's what people used to say in marketing. They'd say, right, what we do, we don't have any diversity in our group, but what we'll do is we'll ask questions to the market. But Konstantin, but you know why it doesn't work?
Why?
What questions are asked in order to elicit what kinds of answers? E.O. Wilson said, you test a trivial hypothesis, you get a trivial answer. You need to ask rich questions.
Sure.
You need diversity within the team that is asking the questions, market researchers and analysts. Because if you look at the FBI in the era of Guantanamo Bay, they couldn't see what was before them, which was a clan-based population, because they didn't understand. These are deeply complex cultural traditions that requires within the analytical function. So
what I'm saying is,
all I'm saying to you is it seems to me that Trump, Musk is very bright, but this is something that happens to a lot of bright people. They think meritocracy at the level of the individual will give you meritocracy at the level of the team. It is conceptually incoherent.
Depending on the mission of the team, I agree. Well,
so long as it's complex.
What I'm saying to you is, the issue of the FBI being insufficiently capable of understanding the Islamist extremism issue is not going to get solved by having more trans people with rainbow lanyards in the FBI.
Correct.
And I think that's the issue that people are concerned about, number one. Number two, the idea that diversity is our greatest strength has been discredited somewhat by the fact that it has to be wheeled out every time there's a terrorist attack, which is what Sadiq Khan and all these other people do. Every time there's a terrorist attack, diversity is our greatest strength. Maybe not now, mate. Maybe not right in this moment. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah. So I think so all of that we've agreed on, and I think most of you.
And there's a third point, which is the other thing is diversity is our greatest strength. There's been this mantra that's been used to justify mass immigration, as if bringing in lots of people is automatically making us stronger. Yeah, no. And it's absolutely not.
Of course it's not. Yeah. I agree with all of that.
So
by the way, here's one. But I do want to.
There's another part of it. Just one more part. There's a class element to this, which is they go, right, we don't, and I saw it in comedy, which is like, we need less white people. But you know what? All the posh boys who've got all the connections, they're still going to get in. Yeah. So who are the white people who are not? Yeah. Oh, it's people who think a little bit differently, maybe have a different accent, and maybe didn't go to the right school. Those are the people, which, shall we just say as well, is the majority of people in this country.
Yeah.
And that really angers that.
I agree with that, but I don't want to land the point that this idea of meritocracy, hiring the best person for the job.
Yes. You need the best team for the team's job. That's what you're saying.
Correct. And this is really important, but it's missed. It's missed in I've got to tell you, I have a business that works, and you'll be amazed at how often you go. This happens in both ways, by the way. Sometimes you'll have a senior leadership team who look diverse, white, brown, male, but they've been there so long, they think in the same way, they bring the same historical precedents, they use the same metaphors. They're just going to get beaten in competition. It's those organisations that rationally optimise for team diversity, and it's not easy to do. It's subtle.
Yes.
The ones that are doing this well, let me tell you, they are completely winning in this age. And I do worry, I'm hearing again and again people say we just need the best person for the job, as if you can have a single test that can tell you who the best person is to populate a team. It's a disaster.
You can't. No, I disagree. It depends on the team and it depends on the mission.
In any complex environment.
I'll give you an example. We have 10 people working for us, right? We just hired a new person to make thumbnails for our YouTube videos, right? The only thing that matters is that person able to do the thumbnails that look good and get attention in the way that we want. We don't care who he is. We don't care where he's from. It doesn't matter, right? There are some jobs and some teams where what you're talking about is not necessary.
Yeah, that's true.
However, when you have a situation when the government says, as it does in America, in some departments, or used to at least until Trump came in, well, actually, you need 10% of this demographic population, 5% of this, and you don't have enough women, and you don't have enough this, and you don't have enough that. That is artificially influencing the situation, not in a good way at all. It's not fundamental to making the success of the mission. more likely. It's fundamental to ticking boxes. And that's when people like Elon or us or whoever says, when we push back against the idea of diversity is our greatest strength, what we're pushing back against is box ticking.
And to be fair, Elon in his companies, I think, is very focused on the right kind of diversity. But you said, thumbnails. That's right. Bricklayers. The productivity is how many bricks each individual can lay. The overall productivity is the sum of the individual members. That's not true of most of the very high value work that's done in the world today.
Okay, give you a different example, right? We get comments from women all the time, regularly. Well, this show would be so much better if it was hosted by women. And I'm like, who stopped women from starting a YouTube channel?
The patriarchy.
Like we started this channel in a room above a comedy club with no money, no connections, no social media, nothing. And we built it up, right? If two women want to do that, no one's standing in their way, right? But the way that people have been trained to think is, let's just switch these things around and then everything will be so much better.
Okay, let me ask you, obviously we're agreeing almost all of it, but I do think I haven't, if you walked into a senior team in a government, all hugely talented individuals, massively brilliant at their, and remember, running a government isn't just running their own departments. They have to come together and discuss issues that pertain to all of them and the synergies and strategic trade-offs between them. And they were all Oxbridge graduates, white, male, middle class. I think that's likely to make profound mistakes. And in fact, if you disagree, look at the blunders of our governments by Ivor King and Anthony Crew. They say that almost all of it was because they just didn't have sufficient diversity in the room. Honestly, I'll give you. I've written a book on this subject, and I can see you're looking sceptical. I remember I used to sit on an advisory group for the England Football Manager. The England Football Manager. Tell me if you think this is a good advisory team to the England Football Men's Manager. What would traditionally be is lots of other England football managers who know a lot about football. If you were to test, we want people with knowledge about football to come and advise on football. These have the 10 most knowledgeable people. They're going to advise Southgate. That's meritocracy, and it's a disaster. Why? Because Southgate already knows what they know. They were socialised into the same assumptions about football. They're not telling it. It's an echo chamber.
So what do they need?
What they need? Well, the team that I joined, me with my background in interest in psychology and culture and performance, is what most of my life I've been interested in high performance. And somebody with a background in AI, Dave Brailsford, knows very little about football. He's a cycling coach. But think of what a cycling coach might bring to that ecosystem with knowledge on cardiovascular endurance, recovery, data, performance, selection.
Fantastic.
Lucy Giles worked at the Army. The Army's world-class on logistics. Now, it takes a strategic lens to say, you don't want to be meritocratic. We want people who know a lot about football to advise on football.
I think this is a language issue in that case. In none of those people's cases have you mentioned their class, their race, their sex, their sexual orientation, their transgenderism or lack thereof. You talked about their skills. Is diversity of skills useful in a team that's choosing an England manager? God, yes. Okay, but do I care if those people are green aliens or transsexual black people or whatever? God, no.
Would class matter in a political decision-making?
I think so, yes. Right. Yes, I do. But again, I wouldn't be picking people based on class. What I would do is make sure that the obstacles are removed from working class people's ability to advance within our society, right? That's what I would do.
It's a hell of a long-term program. But what you really want...
But that's what we want, isn't it?
Well, of course. But you want people now in the cabinet, people who both have knowledge of the relevant kind, and you want some class diversity too.
Wasn't John Prescott a perfect example of that?
Yeah.
Right. So if we're capable of doing it in 1997...
But there has been but the people who study these things say there's been a very significant deficit of diversity.
And we've got fewer people becoming MPs from the army background and also trade union. Everyone's now going through university, right?
Yeah,
but that's not because of a lack of DEI, is my point. It's not because we didn't have a government program to say, you need one more of these.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. No, I agree. I agree with most of that. But you know,
Konstantin Kisin destroys diversity with facts.
No, I do not concede defeat. By the way,
but Matthew, there's a point that I want to make as well, which
I'm just messing with you.
That's a clip. There's a point that I want to make, which I don't think people make enough, and that diversity is bad for the people who get promoted. Because
that's
there
true.
are people who are very, very talented, who are black, brown, gay, whatever it is, and they come into a room and they go, and people like, they may not say it, but they're like, all right, there's a box ticker.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That's why I don't like quotas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What I think people need, anyone from a private sector background, take a step back. What's the problem we're trying to solve? What are the array of insights that we need, tacit and formal? And how do we do that rationally, populate that team in order to really win in a competitive marketplace? I don't think people realize the incredible... You talked about Dawkins. Evolution requires diversity. He may have told you that unless there was genetic mutation, evolution needs something to harness onto.
Yeah.
Diversity is absolutely central, but you need to get it right and in the right way. And I totally agree that on immigration and some of DEI, it's gone completely crazy.